nothing changes. Yet your kiss is still the same. I got a funny feeling it's another game.
Everybody? Anybody out there? We're not hearing anybody this morning. Not hearing anybody this morning? Hello? There you are. There you are. Okay, folks, a very good morning to you, and thank you very much for joining us for this edition of SWGG, Sundays with George Grant. Kind of cloudy here in the Spice Isle this morning, but nevertheless, we're going to hang in there. We're delighted that some of you are already on the shout box this morning. And right now, let's get right into it. First of all, let's say good morning to the folks who are joining us on Grenada Broadcast. Those of you who are joining us on Facebook, later on this afternoon, we will be on YouTube as well, just in case you missed this morning's edition and would like to get back to it. And of course, those of you on TuneIn, as well as Radio Genre and Radio Garden. So, pilgrims, let's get into it. Take a look at the rundown. Interesting, believe it or not, we only have two editorials for you this morning. First of all, let me let you know that for some reason I haven't seen anything from the Advocate. We do have the Grenadian Voice, which is captioned, "What's next on the cohort calendar? Better or worse?" That's the question the Grenadian Voice is asking. And actually, it's a guest editorial. And that's going to be followed by the new today, which is captioned, "Dismantling the MNIB cover-up." Okay? Those are both pretty long editorials, so you're going to see George reading and reading and reading and reading, but we'll get through them. We do have one interview this morning. A gentleman by the name of Mr. Roger Duncan, who is with the Grenada Co-Operative Bank, is going to be joining us at about 9:45 or so this morning. He is with the Grenada Co-Operative Bank, and they have an investor forum coming up. And I think you are going to be interested in what they have to say. So he's going to be our only interview today. Now, he's not the only person coming in. We have someone else coming in. And yeah, this is going to be interesting. More CCJ stuff. By the way, before I tell you about that, let me tell you that tomorrow afternoon, I do expect once again to have Mr. Ruggles Ferguson and Dr. Francis Alexis, QC. For the last three Mondays, they've come in here and they've been doing an hour-long program, which is sort of, I don't want to use the word replacing, but it's sort of taking the place of Law Made Simple. You know that Ruggles has been doing Law Made Simple for about 10 years, every Tuesday night here on Grenada Broadcast. And now they are going to focus their attention on none other than the CCJ. Well, Ruggles was not here last week, but Dr. Alexis was, and the two of them were here the two previous weeks. And they're coming in here tomorrow afternoon. We're going to do that program live on Facebook and publish it on the Facebook website. It's also going to be on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website. So you can hear more about, they're trying to give you reasons why you should vote yes in the upcoming referendum. And believe me, they're going to try and outline things the best they can. Okay? Now, this morning, you're going to hear a voice of someone who actually does support the idea of the CCJ. But he is concerned. He, like so many other people around the Caribbean, he has concerns. And those concerns will hopefully be brought to your attention this morning. It's so amazing, You walk around town and you find out that there are a lot of people would really, really like to see the CCJ become our final appellate court. But deep down inside, they have concerns. A lot of people still feel that they haven't been told enough. That's a tough one to understand because, boy, there have been so many proponents of the CCJ talking about it. But as time goes by, we're finding out that, hey, I didn't know that, or I didn't know this, So, Jerry Edwin, who's an attorney at law, is going to be paying us a visit this morning. And his point of view is that we have not been told everything that we really need to know about the CCJ. And hopefully, he's going to draw some of those things to our attention this morning. Okay? So, Pilgrims, that's your rundown. Apart from the editorials, just two primary focus points this morning. The Investor Forum being put on by the Grenada Co-Operative Bank and the CCJ, whether or not the proponents of the CCJ are telling it all. So, I'll tell you what. Let's take our first little break now, and we'll come on back and get into today's edition of The Buzz.
Grenada Market has now introduced the Prime products to online shoppers in the UK via amazon.co.uk. Zebrapick, Nutmeg, Bourbonday and Mobiback are now available, with more products being added gradually. These products are shipped across the UK and Europe free of charge for Amazon Prime members and backed by Amazon's reputable customer service. Avoid international shipping. Buy in your local area. Amazon.com in the USA, Amazon.ca in Canada, and Amazon.co.uk in UK and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
So, babe, Alberto and Beryl come and gone, right? So that means we still have Chris, Debbie, Florence, Michael, Patty, Sarah.
From the looks of it, Tony and Valerie might be coming as well. So we need to pick up some extra hurricane supplies.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and the Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's is an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan. Get discounts when using credit and debit cards.
Thinking of owning your own home? Take it from a dream to reality. Yes, you can make it yours. Join Co-op Bank for its Make It Yours Property Expo from Friday, July 20th to Saturday, July 21st at the Grenada Trade Center. This year, we are breaking new grounds and going green. Learn tips on making your building climate change resistant, ways to go green, and so much more. Register by visiting www.grenadacoopbank.com or any Co-op Bank retail banking unit.
Easy living should be convenient. With Grenec, it is. Dial 237 for any Grenec department, or for customer service, streetlight outages, or if it's unsafe to trim a tree near a power line. For streetlights and service issues, please note the pole number. From just about anywhere, you can also check your bill balance and other account information. Just keep your GrenNec access number handy. Dial 237 for GrenNec. It's that easy. GrenNec, energizing our Grenada.
Okie doke, folks, we are back. It's now, let's see, 10 minutes after 9 o'clock. Before I get into today's edition of The Buzz, let me take a peek here on Rumble Chat and see who's there and who's not there and what they've got to say. Boy, I'll tell you, somebody who's been very vocal out there on Rumble Chat this morning is OP. OP says, Grenadians, please let us warn PM Mitchell that he should not borrow if he is unable to pay back, especially China. Djibouti is the latest nation to surrender land and property for debts owed to the Chinese. So it is alleged. Others are Sri Lanka and Zambia. Jamaica, be aware. The mighty will trample the weak to the ground. Grenadians, let us cancel the Chinese loan on the airport. If we don't, China will claim MBIA. Take warning, PM. Take warning. Consult with us before selling out Grenada. So says OP. Chester says, good morning all and greetings from Zurich, Switzerland. Says this Grandad saga is not going down well over here. God help us. Blessed Sunday to all. OP is also saying once again, good morning, Chester. We will need your signatures to protect our Grandad's Beach from development at any cost. And when it is spoilt, the developers will up and run. We need to be savvy and smart. I think what he's talking about is it's a petition that is being passed around. Somebody sent a copy of that to me last night. I think they're having a little get-together down on the beach today. And they're hoping that people will sign this petition asking certain questions of the Department of Planning and the government. You know, bottom line is they're very concerned about the fact that, in a nutshell, we're losing our beach, our Grandad's, so dear to us. Anyhow, so continuing here, there's a note from, hello, Dennis. A very good morning to you and your dear wife. Dennis says, good morning, George and class. Looking out over a bright but he's back. He's back in Carriacou. Ah, sneaky, Dennis. Never hinted that you were coming back so soon. John, looks like you're going to have to come on down here and get me and bring me up there to finally come face to face with Dennis. Anyhow, he says he's looking out over a bright but cloudy Tyrrell Bay. Great to be back. Nice to have you back, Dennis. Jimmy in Orlando says, a pleasant good morning to you, George, and all who meet here on the site. Looking forward to today's program. Well, we're always looking forward to seeing you as well, my dear friend. Then we scroll down a little bit. Kipling, hello, Kipling. Kipling says, good morning, Mr. Graham. And class, God's blessings to all. There was a time when news was meant to inform and educate the masses of the true nature of what's going on. But today, because of fear of victimization and intimidation, does he continue? He ends right there. So Jabon comes back and says, Dennis, good morning from Orlando. Had your cocoa tea as yet in Carriacou? Enjoy it. Oh, Dennis, you like cocoa tea, eh? Huh? All right. Isaac says, good morning, George and class, and a very pleasant week to all. This time around for another referendum, We must say the same to this one-party government. No CCJ until we see great change in our lower court and less interference by our politicians. We will decide when there is an opposition in our parliament, our lower court. Jaban is saying the audio is low, Gigi. Oh, the audio is low? Then I guess we have to bump it up, bump it up. Isaac says, yeah, that's true. So both of them are saying that the audio is low. Well, we're going to give the audio some cocoa tea and see if that helps any. Anthea Rullo, out there in Decatur, Georgia, says, good morning, George and all. Question, how big or long is the wall at Silver Sands that no one saw this from its inception? To me, concerns should have been raised since then. Seems like the PM is dancing around the issue. Will Grenadians rise up and get the wall down? Can it come down? Just asking. You know, Anthea, last weekend, last Saturday, I went down to take a look at this, and actually I showed the video on the program last week. I did not measure it, did not take a little yardstick or tape measure with me. But I was surprised that it takes up quite a chunk of the waterfront down there, okay? Good question, but I really couldn't help you with the answer to that. Jaban in Florida is also saying, audio up a bit, please, Gigi. Kipling says, continue from above. Okay, now I see what happened. Kipling is now continuing his comment, which he started a little while ago. He says, continuing from above, of speaking the truth, lack of integrity gives way to opinionated news about the news. And when, gremlins, and when confronted for misinformation, here comes the cry, trying to suppress the freedom of the press. So says Kipling. Okay. We will rise. Nice to see you with us this morning. We will rise says good morning all, and lovely sunny day here. And Dennis says, no cocoa tea yet. I'll ask Christine for a cup. Ask for 2 cups, Dennis. I haven't had brekkie yet either, so I'd love to have something as well. Anyhow, that's it on the box. That's it on the box for the time being. I haven't yet taken a look at. Okay, here we go now. On Facebook, Chester is saying Switzerland is watching. We're watching you too, Chester. Then Peter Bishops is saying good morning. Anthea Rullo is saying hi, Ronnie. Kathleen Thomas, good morning from Toronto. Hello, Toronto and Kathleen. Nesta is also out there in Switzerland. And Marshall Dollars Lewis is also saying good morning. Nice of you folks to join us on Rumble Chat and on Facebook. Later on this afternoon, YouTube. So, let us now get into this week's edition of The Buzz. And as always, we will begin with a reading from the Holy Scripture. A certain ruler asked him, quote, good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Unquote. Why do you call me good? Jesus answered. No one is good except God alone. You know the commandments. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not murder. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony. Honor your mother and your father. All these I have kept since I was a boy, he said. When Jesus heard this, He said to him, "You still lack one thing. Sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me." When he heard this, he became very sad because he was very wealthy. Jesus looked at him and said, "How hard is it for the rich to enter the kingdom of God? Indeed, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God." Those who heard this asked, "Who then can be saved?" Jesus replied, "What is impossible with man is possible with God." Peter said to him, "We have left all that we had to follow you." "Truly I tell you," Jesus said to them, "no one who has left home or wife or brothers or sisters or parents or children for the sake of the kingdom of God will fail to receive many times as much in this age, and in the age to come, eternal life." Pilgrims, that's a reading from the book of Luke, chapter 18, verses 18 to 30. Okay? Now, a little note here in the feedback section. As plans progress to recommence construction work on the Carriacou low-income housing project in Dumfries, the Beijing Construction Engineering Group is presently hiring local steel benders, carpenters, masons, and laborers from Carriacou and Petit Martinique. If you are interested, you can visit the low-income housing project site in Dumfries for more information. Had to pass that on to you. Now, I had been playing, until we changed our format, I'd been playing a calypso titled "The Beaches Are For Everyone." It's written by a good buddy, Chester Simon, and somebody who calls himself Alexander the Great. Now, I'm not going to be able to play that for you this morning again. However, Chester sent the lyrics to me, and I just thought, hey, why not? Why not share these lyrics this morning? And by the way, it's 23 minutes after 9 o'clock. It says here, Grenada's Department of Physical Planning is now under some scrutiny. They say that they're bringing work into the country to improve the economy. But foreign investors and coastal proprietors now buying up the best property, allegedly making it hard for the locals to access the beach or the sea. That's the first verse. The chorus goes as follows. The beaches are for everyone, and we welcome you here in the sun. The beaches are for everyone, and we hope you will have plenty of fun. Rhymes. But you must understand, every small grain of sand in this beautiful land is in real high demand. So the beaches are for everyone. Yes, the beaches are for everyone. That's the chorus. We move on to the second verse. A national survey showed 86% of Grenada's population were deeply opposed to the Riviera project, which some saw as exploitation. The Save the Camahan Park Committee was formed to ensure the park's preservation and protect Grandans from private development, saving it for the nation. That's verse number 2. Not going to do the chorus again. Verse number 3. Have big business interests become more important than honoring poor people's rights. The freedom to roam in the land they call home, on beaches and some green belt sites. I smell something funny. It must be the money that flows down from Cinnamon Heights. We cannot allow them to steal Camahan Park. They're ready to sell our birthrights. Barbados and Jamaica are facing the same thing, as Gabby has already told. The beautiful beaches, which used to be public, are now being bartered and sold. The Caribbean region is now open season as we watch this drama unfold. They use every trick in the book that they can to turn base metal into gold. Yeah, the lyrics of The Beaches Are For Everyone by Chester and Alexander the Great. Pilgrims, let us take another little break, and then we'll come on back with today's first editorial.
2, 3, 7. If you wanna check the grand lack balance on your phone, or report a faulty line near your home, if there is an emergency, take out your phone. These are 3 numbers that you should know. 2, 3, 7. Call me anytime, I'm always on the line. 2, 3, 7. Just call me anytime, I'm always on the line. 2, 3, 7.
Co-op Bank cares about your financial future, which is why we want you to join us on Thursday, September 20th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center for our first National Growth and Investment Dialogue. Come and be enlightened on seizing opportunities to grow your wealth.
Welcome home.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this.
Where you get that?
At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who supporting the environment. That is why I shop in that food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Grenada Market has now introduced the prime products to online shoppers in the UK via amazon.co.uk. Zeberpick, Nutmeg, Wabande and Mobiback are now available, with more products being added gradually. These products are shipped across the UK and Europe free of charge for Amazon Prime members and backed by Amazon's reputable customer service. Avoid international shipping. Buy in your local area. Amazon.com in the USA, Amazon.ca in Canada, and Amazon.co.uk in UK and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Hello, yes, I was saying we are back. It's 29 and a half minutes after the hour. I see the Tess and Jackie. You girls are late this morning joining us, but nice to see you as well. They're on Rumble chat. And it's time now to get into the first of our editorials on this kind of cloudy Sunday morning. Alrighty, folks, the editorial which appears, or I should say appeared in this past week's edition of Grenadian Voice. It's a guest editorial written by Ronald Pappy Charles, and it is captioned, "What's next on the cohort calendar? Better or worse?" In our guest editorial this week, we present what's referred to as an international perspective on trending issues. We now live in a time when fake news, alternative truths, rushed technology, and indignity dominate and threaten humanity. From early childhood, we have had a fascination with gadgets and electronic devices. Every new technological invention that hits the frenzied marketplace seems to have a 3-month lifespan. The latest breakthrough is barely introduced before it becomes outdated by a new discovery. And as the concept of the new and improved is pressed upon, human beings are fast becoming subjects of their own invention. We are bedeviled by greed and conspiracy, and our cultural heritage is under attack. There is a desire to be selective in legislating and regulating freedom of choice where it is politically and commercially expedient. We are experiencing a paradigm shift in values when self-interest, self-expression, and satisfaction override the well-being of community. We assert boastfully that we now live in the information age, a delivery that is significantly contaminated by the social media phenomenon. Are we able to discern the difference between righteous indignation and calculated exploitation? The way we live, our thoughts and actions are important. The attitudes we have towards each other render ineffective, much as the good advice we hear from the responsible leaders in society. Over the past century, we have had a confluence of generational cohorts who have impacted the way in which we live. This mixed bag of behavioral tendencies and diversity have our way of life in constant flux, and the manipulation of our social norm is consequential. Generation X, born between 1964 and 1980, is sometimes referred to as the lost generation. The cell phone entered the market in 1973. This was the first generation of latchkey children exposed to extended hours of daycare and divorce. They grew up at a time when irresponsible disposal of gum and cigarette butts became a public nuisance. Known as the generation with the lowest voting participation rate of my generation, Generation X is often characterized by high levels of selfishness and skepticism. The "what's in it for me" attitudes. However, Generation Xers are arguably the best educated generation, with 29% obtaining a bachelor's degree or higher, 6% higher than the previous cohort. The Generation Y, sometimes referred to as millennials, or humorously as Generation Y, that's WHY, refers to the cohort of individuals born between 1982 and 1994. The smartphone entered the market in 1992. Generation Y grew up with the graffiti culture and many world-changing events, including the rise of mass communications and the internet. The Generation Y is known as a culture war battleground, with growing disagreements between conservative and progressive perspectives. It is known as the information age or internet, the war on terror and rising gas and food prices. By the way, the iPhone entered the market in 2007. The Generation Z, or Z, applying the traditional bias, is the generation of people living in Western or First World cultures, which follow Generation Y. Experts differ on when the earliest members of Generation Z were born, ranging from 1990 to 2001. Though a majority opinion claims about 1996. Several other names have been used to refer to this population group, including Generation V for virtual, the silent generation, or even the Google generation. This period is also referred to as the continuing rise of the information age / internet and digital globalization. This generation grew up with technology, and for them, it's probably hard to go without the devices. It is a time when mental processing, the use of one's imagination for framing a concept, changed to visual aid, show and tell, and when pictures can lie. The period when the legalization of marijuana is becoming a reality and is no longer just a pipe dream. While there is some time for full evaluation, we know the Generation Z is growing up in a highly diverse environment. Are the online alternatives a threat to the traditional route of higher education? It is reputed that Generation Z children will grow up with a highly sophisticated media and computer environment and will be more internet savvy and expert than their Generation Y forerunners. Trending is the era of the Uber transportation service, apps, online shopping, cashless purchases, and the gentrification phenomena. And while that may be the case, it is with a degree of prudence that we recognize the associated shortcomings. Ironically, in this gadget-oriented and values-rejecting culture, there is a growing number of people who are supposedly learned, that are not able to craft a simple line of communication or do a simple multiplication. Grenadian groups and organizations abroad, such as the GBSS, PBC, SAS, SJC, the Grenada Association of Barbados, etc., that are now managed by this generational demographic cohort are underperforming or dormant in most cases. The commitment to giving back is a thing of the past. In relation to fashion, there is a stark difference between looking good and looking different. People world over are fashioned out. They have literally run out of ideas in relation to dress. Today, people wear more tattoos than clothing. And what was once considered bedroom pajamas and slippers are now streetwear. Outlandish and boisterous behavior is now the norm. We live in a time when it is easier to purchase or get a firearm than a Bible. As a black man in distress, it is safer to call on your enemy than to call the police. Gender is no longer a distinction. You are no longer identified as who you are, but rather who you want to be. Our long-standing values are now supplanted by politically motivated legislation. The classroom has now become a battle zone, the deadliest place for our children seeking an education. And the misuse of social media by nitwits is bringing life to Donald Trump's claim of fake news and alternative facts. Since we are at the end of the cohort alphabet, it is my hope that we start Generation A with a clean slate, a new beginning, a new dispensation, and the collective will to do what is right and not what is popular. Would our children's children have to bear the brunt of the burden we are placing on humanity? Would they be able to provide an answer to the problems we are passing on to them? It is surprising, if not mind-boggling, that supposedly intelligent people would refuse to get a better handle on the technological and cultural phenomena that beset us. Our greatest consternation is how we manage the 4 C's, which are culture, the challenge or fight to preserve cultural norms; class, the challenge or fight to maintain the 4 tiers of social classes, such as upper class, middle class, working class, and lower class; communication, the paradigms of communication in the digital age; and capitalism, a desire to return to good old-fashioned capitalism. Bear in mind that social media, with all its good intention, allowed a foreign power with a history of ulterior motives to interfere and meddle with, if not influence, the outcome of the United States 2016 national elections. To hoodwink and force feed society with toxic decisions to satisfy special interest groups is shameful and despicable. Beware. That, pilgrims, is your editorial from this past week's edition of The Grenadian Voice.
Grenada Market has now introduced the Prime products to online shoppers in the UK via Amazon.co.uk. Zeberpick, Nutmeg, Wabande, and Mobiback are now available, with more products being added gradually. These products are shipped across the UK and Europe free of charge for Amazon Prime members and backed by Amazon's reputable customer service. Avoid international shipping. Buy in your local area. Amazon.com in the USA, Amazon.ca in Canada, and Amazon.co.uk in UK and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company. Tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability. And wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us
as we energize our Spice Island.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Okie doke, folks. It's now 12 and a half minutes away from 11 o'clock. Am I right? No, heck no, heck no. It's 12 and a half minutes away from 10 o'clock. But right now, we're going to get to the editorial from the New today. The editorial, which appears in this past week edition of the New Today, is captioned, Dismantling the MNIB Cover-Up. The New Today is calling on Mr. Robert Robinson to distance himself from the so-called decision taken by the politically exposed Integrity Commission, headed by attorney-at-law Anande Trotman Joseph, to mount a private investigation into alleged corruption and wrongdoing at the state-owned Marketing and National Importing Board. This newspaper is convinced that the powers that be are trying to use the good name of Mr. Robinson to sugarcoat the kind of investigation that they intend to undertake into the affairs of the MNIB during the tenure of its Chief Executive Officer, Rule Edwards, and the Board of Directors under the chairmanship of Samuel Andrew. The Prime Minister of this country, Dr. Keith Mitchell, is now trying to hide behind the Integrity Commission as he seeks to duck from the pronouncement he made at the end of July to conduct a public inquiry into the M&IB fiasco. Dr. Mitchell has already come out in the public domain and made a number of startling revelations about the frightening things that took place at M&IB, which is a state-owned body that falls into the category of a national treasure for the farmers of this country. This newspaper holds strongly to the view that a public inquiry has to be held in keeping with the Commission of Inquiry Act as provided for by the laws of Grenada, and not any charade by the Integrity Commission, which lacks the professional expertise, including a qualified and competent forensic accountant, to do any meaningful probe into the financial wrongdoings as alluded to by the Prime Minister. The Integrity Commission also lacks the relevant jurisdiction to investigate a matter of that nature. In addition, those persons who were maligned in public by the Prime Minister should be equally offered a public platform to put forward their defense against the charges made against them by PM Mitchell. In one of his broadcasts, the Prime Minister said the following, quote, "Marketing Board was meant to maximize the production of the agricultural sector and put more money into the hands of farmers. It was not meant to become another government bureaucracy that satisfies its friends and political affiliates." Dr. Mitchell went on, "You cannot care about a country, and if you're in a position of authority, you take a decision to garnish a government account, thereby putting the salaries of scores of workers at risk and jeopardizing their ability to provide basic items for their families. I have a serious problem with that." Unquote. The New Today is suggesting that the remarks were directed at Mr. Rule Edwards and Dr. Patrick Antoine, the Grenadian-born and regionally recognized agricultural economist who was a permanent fixture of the ruling New National Party government for over 20 years until his sudden resignation a few weeks ago. It has now become a matter of public record that Dr. Antoine was a director of a Miami-based company that was selling sugar to M&IB under Mr. Rule Edwards' tenure, and which took the state-owned body to court for a debt of close to $1 million EC dollars. Armed with a court order in the face of the failure of the marketing board to honor its debt, the company, through its local lawyer, took the bold decision to go before the High Court to get an order to garnish the account of government to recover its monies. The New Today is saying that Dr. Antoine ought to respond to the utterances of the Prime Minister in the public inquiry and to give his side so that the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique can be the judge of the facts as presented. Over the years, Dr. Mitchell has often used the halls of Parliament to malign a number of persons with untruths because he knows that these individuals cannot use the same parliamentary platform to respond to his utterances. The findings of the M&IB inquiry should be public and not something to be put away on some shelf by PM Mitchell himself and Governor General Dame Cecile Lagrenard. Mr. Robinson should not be a part of the charade that is the so-called private inquiry now taking place by the Integrity Commission. The New Today also wants to remind Mr. Robinson of the following remarks, which were made in the public arena by the former chairman of MNIB, Samuel Andrew, and Grenadians ought to hear for themselves the response of those who have been called into question. Mr. Andrew said the following in a press statement, and I quote, "Initially, the parlous state of finances at the MNIB was only revealed to me when a colleague telephoned me to indicate that a foreign sugar supplier was seeking redress for the payment of outstanding amounts for sugar after numerous successive undertakings to pay from the CEO were not honored. These facts of financial expose were previously concealed from the board for almost 2 years. Upon receiving the query from the supplier, I requested a full report on the financial status of the MNIB. The board was stunned into silence regarding the extent to which the true financial status of the MNIB was concealed. As chairman, I took the responsible action of bringing this development to the attention of the minister with responsibility for economic development at the time, Minister Oliver Joseph. I kept Minister Oliver Joseph continuously appraised of the situation at the marketing board, at times even drawing the ire of the CEO. There is nothing that the board or the chairman could have done differently in circumstances where they were denied critical financial information." Unquote. Mr. Robinson, the public should be made privy of what Minister Joseph did with this kind of information that was given to him by Mr. Andrew. Did he keep it for himself or inform the Cabinet of Ministers and PM Mitchell of the financial mess that MNIB had found itself in? A properly constituted commission of inquiry will have the powers to subpoena Cabinet minutes and documents on the information about Marketing Board that Minister Joseph should have relayed to Cabinet, and if he did so, when did he inform the body? If Minister Joseph did bring the MNIB fiasco to the attention of Cabinet, then this brings into serious question the truthfulness of the statement now being made by PM Mitchell that when the decision was taken to bring Mr. Roel Edwards from the Marketing Board into another big-paying job at the Ministry of Finance as head of Economic and Technical Cooperation, he would not have supported it if he had known about the financial madness that was uncovered. This is what PM Mitchell told reporters only 2 weeks ago. I want to be clear, when the decision was made to hire the past manager of Marketing Board, I had no indication, and I was not the one who moved to get the appointment. I gave my endorsement when the information and recommendation was brought before me, but I want to be very clear. I had no indication. If there was any indication that there was a possibility or problems in that area, I would not have supported it. Mr. Robinson should not allow his good name and credibility as an outstanding retired civil servant to be used by the head of the Integrity Commission, Anande Trotman Joseph, the wife of Dr. Lawrence Joseph, considered as one of the most trusted lieutenants of the Prime Minister, to deny the public of the right to know firsthand about the people's business, that is, the Marketing Board. History will not be kind to Mr. Robinson if he partakes in the charade by the NNP regime, which is now being called Operation M&IB Cover-Up. Mr. Robinson must know that the Integrity Commission cannot investigate fraud and that a public inquiry must be held only after an independent audit and a criminal investigation by the FIU take place as part of the good governance agenda. That, my dear friends, is the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of The New Today.
Easy living should be convenient. With Grenlec, it is. Dial 237 for any Grenlec department, or for customer service, streetlight outages, or if it's unsafe to trim a tree near a power line. For streetlights and service issues, please note the pole number. From just about anywhere, you can also check your bill balance and other account information. Just keep your Grenlec access number handy. Dial 237 for Grenlec. It's that easy. Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Co-op Bank cares about your financial future, which is why we want you to join us on Thursday, September 20th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center for our first National Growth and Investment Dialogue. Come and be enlightened on seizing opportunities to grow your wealth.
When a hurricane watch or warning is in effect, act quickly. Listen to the media for official information. Set your refrigerator to the coldest temperature to help food last longer. Move electrical devices from areas where they may get wet. During a hurricane, stay indoors. Be mindful that you may lose power and keep listening to the media. Unplug all electrical devices and take off your main switch. This will reduce the potential for damage or fire. Avoid opening refrigerators and freezers, as food will thaw more quickly. Assume all wires are energized and stay away from them. In the event of island-wide damage, Grenlec will restore power to critical facilities first. These include hospitals, police, fire departments, and water supply pumps. For more information, please visit us at grenlec.com.
There he is, folks. There he is, our first in-house guest this morning. Gentleman by the name of Mr. Roger Duncan. And for some reason, his pictures, there's a smile. A little broad, but his picture seems to be freezing. What's going on? Thank you very much, Roger. How are you, man?
Including those in the diaspora.
Yeah, in just a little bit you're going to find out a whole mob out there this morning, I guess. You know, there are people overseas who are curious about investing here, and I guess you guys have touched a couple of nerves and aroused some curiosity.
Yep.
With you. Why don't you start by telling us about this investor forum?
Well, the Co-op Bank National Growth and Investment Dialogue, that's how it's called. It's really a conversation, a discourse that is designed to assist Grenadians, both individuals and corporate entities, to assess where we are, look at the opportunities that are before us, and of course to position ourselves to take advantage of those opportunities to essentially better the lives of all and increase their wealth.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're trying to improve and increase the, people's and make people's lives better for them. Okay. I want you to get into some specifics as to how the public will see that being manifested.
Well, firstly, I want to tell you that the event is a collaboration between the Grenada Cooperatives Bank Brokerage and Investment Services Unit and the Banking Investment Services Unit of Bank of St. Lucia. So what we are doing is bringing together some of the sharpest minds in the OECS at this dialogue, which will take place this coming Thursday at the Grenada Trade Center. That's the 20th. To engage our citizens on the matter of economic growth, economic performance, and how it is as individuals you can look for. And as brokerage houses, we can assist you on capitalizing on those opportunities you wish to pursue. What prompted the two banks to undertake this exercise really is that we have come to the realization, George, that the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union is in fact a small region by any criteria you choose to measure it. And there is expertise that we can leverage among ourselves to achieve certain goals and to better serve the public of the OECS. So we have certain expertise and knowledge, and likewise the colleagues in St. Lucia, and therefore we are teaming up to carry out this exercise. It's our first dialogue of this kind with an aim of increasing investor education, really. So the focus is on potential investors, current investors, enhancing their knowledge of investments. It will help inform them how to grow their wealth, prospects of the economy, and potentially create investment opportunities for individuals and commercial entities, right?
One of the things you mentioned is that you're doing this in sort of partnership with the bank in St. Lucia.
Yeah.
Get into some specifics as to the reason, the rationale for that, the reason for it.
Yeah. Well, like I've said before, the ECCU, as Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, is a small space by measure, any criteria you choose to measure it, and we need to leverage on each other's strengths. And the folks in St. Lucia has certain expertise, we here in Grenada has certain expertise, and we believe once we come together as a team, we'll be able to execute efficiently and so apprise the public in this context of investment opportunities and so on.
Okay. The bank obviously sees some great potential there, and there must be some rationale for doing this. Look at the smile on his face. There must be some rationale for doing this at this particular time. Let's talk about that.
Well, Cooperative Bank really wish to see a more sophisticated, educated citizenry on the matter of buying and selling financial instruments. We believe for too long, many of us sold accumulated assets in primarily two forms. Either in land or building your residential property as such, and deposits in commercial banks or some other financial institution. If we do not position ourselves to take advantage of certain financial opportunities, people from outside the OECS is going to do so. The CSME is going to is here. It's happening upon us, and in all facets, we are going to be there at some point in time. We already have the free movement of labor, people, and we also have free movement of capital. It is therefore extremely important that our people must prepare and must be in a position to get on. And we believe as an indigenous commercial bank with a licensed broker-dealer arrangement, we have an obligation to assist the public in getting to that point.
One of the things you said, is that, one of the things I understand you guys intend to do is make sure that everyone comes to this forum. But let me ask you this. You have identified it as an investor forum. And Joe Blow out there hearing it's an investor program may say, well, I don't have money to invest. Why should I go to this thing?
Right. That's one of the things that seems to be a mystery. And one of the objectives of this event is to demystify the issue of investing in financial instruments. Education to us should not be restricted to a selected group of people. As a growing economy, there are prospects and opportunities for everyone, right, including the average Joe. The question is, how do we sufficiently enlighten our people of such so that they can actively participate, as opposed to allowing it to be dominated by a very few set or investment class of persons. We can somewhat tie this back to the bank's mission created by its forefathers more than 85 years ago, to bring banking to a regular set of folks and opposed to a selected few. That mission, George, is still relevant today for Co-op Bank, to educate persons about the securities market and investment options that are available to them. Just like everybody have a bank account, we strive for the day when there will be a mix that just not having a bank account, that you will also have investment securities the same way. And that happens in developed countries, and we are heading just there.
Okay.
We, as I told you, it is a mystery to some people when they think of investing in financial securities, whether buying or selling. And that event on Thursday the 20th will demystify that, as our presenters and broker specialists will be available there, will guide you through the process. And we hope at the end of it, and going forward too, this event is most likely going to be an annual one. That person will, the mystery of the whole thing will all dissipate, and Grenadians on a whole actively involved in other investment opportunities outside than just the regular ones we know, traditional ones at the bank of fixed deposits and so on.
In doing some homework and in preparation for this little conversation here this morning, one of the things I learned is that you guys are trying to turn this into a bit of a dialogue. In other words, you're not just asking people to come so you could tell them what you're offering.
Right.
I'm assuming here that you want to hear what they have to say as well?
Of course. Several experts in the financial and investment fields will be on hand to help persons to understand the issues surrounding the economic crisis, and we can look forward, and how we can look forward to prospects and take advantage of opportunities and so on. And after each presentation, persons will get a chance to ask questions and so on the matter. One of the presenters is Dr. Carrie Grenada, who will review and provide an outlook of the Grenadian and other key regional economies. Dr. Grenada is a trained economist who has been working in the Caribbean for the past 17 years. She has held positions in the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and the Caribbean Development Bank. She's currently on a 2-year secondment from the Caribbean Development Bank, serving in the capacity as macroeconomic advisor in the Ministry of Finance. She holds a doctorate in public policy and administration from Walden University, a master's degree in financial economics from the University of Toronto, and an undergraduate degree in economics, first class honors, from the University of the West Indies, Barbados. Carrie has published in international and regional journals, mainly in the areas of public finance, economic growth, and general macroeconomics. And you'll be happy to know that she is a Grenadian. There'll also be
Are you going to be making a presentation too, Roger?
No, not on that day.
Okay.
There's also a guest speaker from Bank of St. Lucia. It's Mr. Medford Francis. who will discuss general and specific investment opportunities in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, and recent trends, issues, and outlooks for banking systems in the OECS. Mr. Francis is a holder of a Bachelor's Science degree in Economics from the University of the West Indies and a Master's of Science in Financial Management from the University of London. He has 9 years' experience in the field of macroeconomic policy information, finance and budgeting, public sector investment, appraisal, and management. He previously served as chief economist for national development within the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs in St. Lucia, responsible for securing the financing of major public sector investment projects. Mr. Francis then went on to serve from 2008 to 2011 as a senior fund manager within the Wealth and Asset Management Division of the Bank of St. Lucia, with the responsibility for the day-to-day management of investment portfolios. His roles spanned the full investment cycle, namely identifying and appraising investments, execution, monitoring, and reporting. After this, he was promoted to the position of senior manager of that division in 2011. In that capacity, Mr. Francis had overall oversight over the investment of the bank's and clients' investment portfolios and in implementing investment strategies. He then went on to become the group investment manager in 2014, where he engineered the creation of a centralized investment unit for the Eastern Caribbean Financial Holdings Group of companies and introduced a new portfolio management, accounting, and analytics platform. Mr. Francis is a registered principal on the Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange, the ECSE, having successfully undertaken the ECSE certification examination for licensed practitioners in 2008. He is now the Senior Manager for Investment Banking at Bank of St. Lucia, formerly known as ECFH Global Investment Solutions Limited, having been appointed to that position in June of 2015. In this regard, he has been an active participant on the ECSE, being involved in securities transactions related to the portfolios under management, and has developed intimate perspectives on the legal and regulatory framework for the conduct of securities business within the sub-region. Mr. Francis also amassed vast experience on other regional markets as well as international capital markets through various intermediaries. So what you have in Mr. Francis is a real practitioner of financial securities investment.
Been there, done that.
You really don't want to miss someone like that, properly being able to edify you about the whole process and, of course, demystify the business of financial securities investment. Also, we have our own core bank's managing director, Mr. Richard W. Duncan. He will specifically deal with core bank's financials, with projects toward the short to medium term. Mr. Duncan holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Economics and Accounting from the University of the West Indies, and a Master of Arts in Public Administration from Carleton University. He is a fellow Chartered Professional Accountant, fellow Certified General Accountant, an associate of the Institute of Canadian Bankers, an accredited director and fellow of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators, Canada. An economist and an accountant, he joined the Grenada Co-Operative Bank Limited family in 1996 as its financial manager after previously working in the Grenada Public Service in the areas of public policy analysis, debt management, public finance, and public sector investment programming. Richard has made meaningful contribution to the discourse on public and private finance, banking, and bank regulation in the OECS as a presenter, writer, and discussant at several regional and sub-regional conferences and seminars. In 2008, he was honored as a distinguished graduate of the University of West Indies in commemoration of its 60th anniversary for his contribution to financial services. He serves on several boards. His current directorships include Chairman of Caribbean Credit Card Corporation, Director of Caribbean Financial Services Corporation, and Grenada. Richard gives back to the community at home and abroad as a Rotarian, being a past president. He's a chairman of the UE Open Campus Finance Committee, and he's a member of the OECS nomination committee of the Anthony N. Sapka Caribbean Awards for Excellence. You know that Richard is married to Petal with one daughter. So, in addition to the mix of strong resources that can properly edify you on financial instruments, we also have a mix of presenters that is in touch with reality, being family, pursuing dreams, and so on, so that you really get a true sense and a true picture and appreciation for what the presenters have to offer.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Richard. We're starting to run out of time. Roger.
Yeah.
Are you related to Richard?
Possibly.
Possibly. Let's flip a coin here.
As we say in Grenada, pumpkin vine.
you said it, Roger. I did. Okay. You know, I want to make sure that people understand what they can expect when they come to those things. So I want you to get into some specifics about what they're going to expect, what they can experience.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to put the cat out of the bag, because we really want as much persons to be down at the Trade Center this coming Thursday on the 20th, to be engaged about the process. But in a nutshell, it's a conversation that we're going to have with everybody, whether you're there as an individual looking for your own opportunity, or whether you're there as a manager or trustee of some fund, be it a pension fund, or manager of a corporation, leaders and so on, different unions and so on. Regardless as to what it is, we want to be able to present to you the status of our economy. So we're going to take a national outlook and prospects and opportunities that are there. We're going to also have a regional outlook. So we're giving you the basis that will help well inform you of a financial decision you can undertake through the investment in financial security instruments. And that discussion will enable you to ask as much questions as you can to the presenters. And of course, at the end of the exercise, we're also going to have broker specialists available on the floor that persons can engage and be guided accordingly.
You know, because this, one of the things you want to familiarize people with is the state of the banking sector in the Caribbean. Let me ask you this. You guys have heard, obviously, in recent times that there are a number of banks leaving the Caribbean, foreign banks. Okay. Do you think that that is going to have any adverse impact on our regional banking system?
Well,
I know that this might be putting you on the spot, but try.
Yeah. Well, you would know that the former governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Sir Dwight Venner, in part of its 8-point stabilization plan, did mention the importance of indigenous banks collaborating, merging, and so on. I think the essence is trying to understand how, as a region, we can leverage each other's strength and collaborate where we can in order to provide better services. Grenada Co-Operative Bank has been in existence for more than 85 years. It is no surprise to us when we see banks come in and close door and leave. That has happened throughout our existence. And the bank still remain relevant and is growing among the circumstances. And that's why I said earlier on that we understand the role that we play in our economy and how relevant it is. It is still today. in educating Grenadians, in providing full-fledged banking services to Grenadians. And by extent, there are opportunities, such like this one, where we're able to collaborate with the Bank of St. Lucia, which is a regional bank, leveraging each other's strengths and teaming up to bring financial investment securities to all.
And you guys still have I know that you did at one time, a heavy focus on the diaspora.
Yeah, we're still involved in a big way with the diaspora. We are the bank of the diaspora. We address re-strategizing our approach to it. But the services and the reach has nonetheless decreased. We're still involved in a lot of different ways. And in due course, our strategy was so be focused that we able to provide clinically better services to as much persons as we can in the diaspora.
So you guys are poised for growth despite everything.
We are growing. We've been poised a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's so nice to see a local, an indigenous institution making the sort of headway that you guys are making.
Yeah, and every Grenadian should be proud of that, you know. Like I've said, 3 hurricanes, Hurricane Janet, Ivan, Emily. There were 2 major financial crises. We had ups and downs, different government, different policies and so on. And the bank has grown despite all of that.
Well, spend the last couple of minutes telling these folks once again about this National Growth and Investment Dialogue, the venue, the date, the time. Is there a charge?
No, it's free of cost.
Okay.
It's at the Grenada Trade Center this coming Thursday, the 20th. It starts at 5 p.m. sharp. And you know that Co-op Bank is credible on starting on time. Right?
Yes.
And for many of those who've been involved in the Pump It Up Fund
tell me
they
about
have
it.
experienced that. So we start 5 p.m. on time. So you want to get there as early, you know, 4 in the afternoon, get into Grenada from St. George's. Could be a headache with the traffic and so on. So leave as early as you can so you can be there for the 5 o'clock start. So we're inviting all Grenadians, all those looking for opportunities to grow their wealth, whether you be a leader of a particular institution, a trustee of a pension fund, managers, corporate entities, or insurance companies, just every single person, including the average Joe, right?
Me. Go ahead. Say including you, George. Go ahead.
I didn't say that, right?
I'm telling you.
Including George. And we're going to have a conversation which is designed to assist Grenadians, individuals and corporations to assess where we are, look at the opportunities that are before us, the opportunities that are likely to arise in the future, and to position themselves to take advantage of those opportunities to essentially better themselves and increase their wealth. So everyone coming down, it's free of course, Grenada Trade Center, Thursday 20th, and it commences from 5 p.m.
You know, I've been a little bit remiss, and I'm hoping that you'll bear with me for this. I've been sort of ignoring the Facebook comments. And there are some comments here. Actually, one person, he's asking some questions which, I mean, I'm not sure. Anyhow, I'm going to pass them on to you. One, how safe is it, Mr. Duncan? I have no clue what he's referring to. Secondly, retirement accounts investments. And then his third question is, how easy it is to lose your investment, Mr. Duncan?
Yeah. Well, that particular person, I hope that they're here in Grenada and would be able to make it down at the Trade Center on Thursday. These are directive questions that they can pose to the presenters who are specialists in their field, economists and so on, and I think they can be answered appropriately.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Roger. We'll see if I can make it down there. would be nice. And please convey my regards to your head honcho, Mr. Richard Duncan.
Certainly will do.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, George, for giving us this opportunity to be on the program this morning.
Anytime. I want you to stick around for half a sec because, I'm sure that a lot of the people listening in the places I'm going to mention right now are probably saying, geez, man, since I got Penny Halfpenny, I want to sink into Grenada. I should really attend this forum, but unfortunately I can't because I'm in wherever. Just listen to where these people are for half a sec.
Okay.
All right. Richard, they are in Stuttgart, Germany. Wilde, Barbados. They are in Brooklyn, New York. Midlothian in Virginia. Manchester in England. Warringham in England as well. London, England. Wilde, Barbados. North York, Ontario. Virginia Beach in Virginia, Enfield in England, Fort Lauderdale in Florida, Mercier. I'm sure I'm going to be told I'm pronouncing that wrong, but that's in Canada, and it's probably, chances are, in Quebec. Toronto is with us. Etobicoke is with us. Delray Beach in Florida. Ellenwood in Georgia. Dealsdorf in Switzerland. Aldershot in England. A lot of duplicates here. Port of Spain, Trinidad, Pigots, and Antigua, Barbuda. You know somebody in the Port of Spain? That's your mommy and daddy listening, right? Yeah, right. No. Bowie in Maryland, Miami, Florida. Brooklyn, New York, Tunapuna in Trinidad. Cambridge, Ontario. Walthamstow in England. Orange in Connecticut. The Bronx, I hope this is pronounced properly, M-I-E-G-E. It's in Switzerland. Miege. Bring that up at the forum and get them to tell you how to pronounce it. M-I-E-G-E. Oshawa, Ontario is with us. Tampa, Florida. Miami, Florida. Cambria Heights in New York, Maple, Ontario, Brantford, Ontario, Roadtown in the Virgin Islands, Baltimore in Maryland, West Hempstead in New York, Toronto, Brampton, Ontario, Brooklyn, New York, a whole lot of people out there, and that's in addition to the ones here in Grenada who are with us. Thanks again, Roger Duncan, who is with the Grenada Co-Operative Bank, and the date again for that forum is the 20th. Quick glance here. Ryan on Facebook says, as a Grenada national in the diaspora, to open a Grenada Co-op bank is like applying for a work account. That is, a work account. Jump on an airplane, come on down, Mr. Jabon. Folks, let's take a little break here, and then we'll come on back with our next guest in just a wee bit.
Thinking of owning your own home? Take it from a dream to reality. Yes, you can make it yours. Join Co-op Bank for its Make It Yours Property Expo from Friday, July 20th to Saturday, July 21st at the Grenada Trade Center. This year, we are breaking new grounds and going green. Learn tips on making your building climate change resistant, ways to go green, and so much more. Register by visiting www.GrenadaCoopBank.com or any Co-op Bank retail banking unit.
Easy living should be convenient. With Grenlec, it is. Dial 237 for any Grenlec department, or for customer service, streetlight outages, or if it's unsafe to trim a tree near a power line. For streetlights and service issues, please note the pole number. From just about anywhere, you can also check your bill balance and other account information. Just keep your Grenlec access number handy. Dial 237 for Grenlec. It's that easy. Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
So, babe, Alberto and Beryl come and gone, right? So that means we still have Chris, Debbie, Florence, Michael, Patty, Sarah.
From the looks of it, Tony and Valerie might be coming as well. So we need to pick up some extra hurricane supplies.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and the Food Fair Supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's is an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan. Get discounts when using credit and debit cards.
Grenada Market has now introduced the Prime products to online shoppers in the UK via amazon.co.uk. Zeberpick, Nutmeg, Bourbonday and Mobiback are now available, with more products being added gradually. These products are shipped across the UK and Europe free of charge for Amazon Prime members and backed by Amazon's reputable customer service. Avoid international shipping. Buy in your local area. Amazon.com in the USA, Amazon.ca in Canada, and Amazon.co.uk in UK and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Let's see what time it is here now. It's 10:35, 25 minutes away from 11 o'clock. Mr. Edwin has been described. I see a paper describing you as outspoken. See that face? Let's find out just how outspoken he is this morning. Jerry, it's good to see you. Welcome. How are you?
Good to see you, George.
Yeah?
I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, excellent. Good morning
Okay.
to your listeners, Grenadian nationals, friends of Grenada, all over the world. Good morning.
Did you just hear the list of places where they are?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is whether one is, if you are concerned about Grenada at all and you are outside of the island, I think on Sunday mornings this is the place where everybody rendezvous.
Well, thank you. You know, when I came in here this morning, I one of the things I noticed is that there was somebody out there in Bangkok, and there was somebody out there in China, in Beijing as well. And I thought, oh my God, I haven't seen Bangkok and China in quite a while. I wonder if they're here just for Mr. Edwin.
So much of what our news here is so localized.
Yeah.
Does not reach a greater audience. I think outside of I'm not paid to say this, folks. Outside of GrenadaBroadcast, I don't think that. I mean, when I finally got my my Grenadian groove on in 2006, and I heard about your station, I think people like Bernard and a number of other people, my friends in New York, we would make sure we tune into GrenadaBroadcast and then afterwards call each other and discuss the program. So yes,
Thank you.
I'm sure people, Grenadians all over the world, look forward to being here on a Sunday morning.
Jerry, you know, I was reading an article in the New Today recently. Apparently you had an interview with a paper, and you voiced some very, very strong opinions. But it's not that you're alone. I'm hearing a lot of those opinions and more being echoed out there. And I thought, you know, this could be a little bit of an eye-opener if we invited them in here to share with the people. And before we go any further, I want to make it clear that you have already made it clear that you are not anti-CCJ.
That's correct.
And me and a lot of other people. You just made it clear that you have some concerns and you'd like to see things done. Where do you want to start?
I want to start with the observation, George, that there's a reason there are, in democratic countries, 3 levels of government. There's a reason why we have separation of powers at the highest level of state governance. We have a judiciary, we have the legislature, and the legislature is normally divided into 2 parts, right? In federal systems, we know that there is a Congress, there is the courts, and there are usually 2 levels of government. I want to start with the idea put forward by the proponents of the CCJ that the adoption of this court somehow changes the matrix of our development as an island nation. That somehow going to the CCJ ushers in a brand new day as the debate in the one-sided debate in Parliament stated, it's a step in Grenada's national development if we adopt this court, the CCJ. I want to start with quoting the Ghanaian revolutionary leader, Amilcar Cabral. He says, "Tell no lies and claim no easy victories." I think the campaign to ensure a yes vote falls far short of what Cabral's warning to the newly developed countries of Africa was in the 1960s. We have a campaign that is littered with untruths. Now, the job of a politician is to persuade, George. That's their stock in trade. But a political campaign is not the place to get full disclosure on any issue. You're not going to get it there. So the campaign for the adoption of the CCJ has omitted critical factors, I think, that will lead the electorate to make an informed decision about this court. Yes, in theory, I fully support the court. But what I support more than anything else, George, is a transparent system. A transparent system. And we have no experience in the governance of these former British colonies with transparent government. In none of the CARICOM territories do we have, for example, a freedom of information law. You and I have no right to know anything about the way government operates. No. Let's go directly to this court. The court has, I think let's go to the bill, because there are so many places that we could go with this discussion this morning.
Well, let me tell you what. It's only 10:42, 18 minutes to 11. You have until 12 o'clock, Jerry.
Oh, we have the whole morning? Oh, George, thank you very much. So I would like to say that there's a lie that is told in the campaign that we are breaking the chains of colonialism. And I want to also go on record as to say that we have loudly challenged the most awful of our colonial laws in Grenada, which is that of taking a poor man, bending him over a table, and whipping him. We call it flogging. This is on our books in Grenada, and it was adopted from the pre-1973 Constitution. It was expanded in the early 1990s to include pre-deal larceny as a crime for which a sentence of flogging now is legal. Now, if removing such a law is not breaking the backs of colonialism, or if colonialism can be broken by adopting the CCJ and keeping the law on flogging, then we are in a dystopian world. We are in an Orwellian kind of world where don't listen to what I say, or don't look at what I do, who you're going to believe, your lying eyes, or what I tell you. The campaign for the CCJ is a dishonest campaign, George. It's a dishonest campaign. Ironically, for a worthy effort, a worthy cause. We support the CCJ. But we do not believe that the bill which is telling the ordinary Grenadian that where their cause of action in the lower courts is for $1,500 or more, they will have a right of redress in the CCJ. Well, that's a lie. Because the CCJ Act says, the Act itself, not Jerry Edwin saying this, the Act itself says that to go to the CCJ, your case must have a prescribed value of $25,000 or more.
It's the first I'm hearing of that.
Yes, yes. The bill to adopt the CCJ, the Grenadian bill, has this gulf between what the agreement says and what the bill says. So we have $1,500 in the bill that is being sold to Grenadians, and we have the agreement itself where it says $25,000 in the adoption of the court in its appellate jurisdiction. That's not all. The CCJ law says that if there are any changes, and we could drill down to the specific parts later on, I'm just giving you the high-level overview. If there are any changes to the agreement, the bill says that the parties that adopt it must come back to the countries and go through the constitutional provisions so that the changes can be ratified in the local parliament. The bill in Grenada has no such circularity. It says when we adopt the CCJ, we adopt all the rules, all the changes. Amending a constitution is a very difficult thing. Acceding to a court that will determine private and public issues is a bar so high that anyone who says, well, the Privy Council used to do it this way, and why are you criticizing the way the CCJ does it? But you tell us this is a better court. To the issue of transparency, the Judicial and Legal Commission, we are told, is the body that selects judges. Not the president of the court. That is a sole decision of the heads of government. They decide who the president is, and they give us this president. This is the chairman, president of the commission. I'm afraid that the manner in which the commission selects judges does not allow you and I and John Public to comment on that judge's fitness for office. Because we may know something about this judge as a litigant before the judge that the commission may not be aware of. There is no comment from farmers, no comment from the ordinary man in the street, to say Taxi Drivers Association, for example, to say that, you know, we had brought a suit before Judge X in Grenada, and that judge did not give us a decision for 6 years, a written decision. And we never were able to file our appeal on time. We had to go to the Court of Appeal and beg the court for us. I'm giving you real, I'm just not calling the names, I'm giving you real examples of judges' conduct. I think the commission should not treat the selection of judges as though it's an appointment to the head of a corporation or director of human resources. Yet that's what they do. Their process in selecting judges is to advertise internationally, shortlist who they want, and then they tell us who have acceded to the court, we've decided on Judge X. No input from any, well, let me tell you where the input comes from. The bar associations, the lawyers, that is. So it's a kind of elitist club, and I'm a lawyer, but I don't feel empowered by the lack of transparency in the selection of judges. Maybe we can learn something from the Americans. And given the disparate nature of our interests, although we are all Caribbean people, I think it is important that we allow the public at large to comment on the selection of judges. Payment of judges, remuneration, most important thing. And it's not important only to me. In fact, in the entire campaign for the adoption of the CCJ, we are told the following. Heads of government have nothing to do with the operation of the court because there's a $100 million trust fund that is to be used for the purpose of the operation of the court. What the bill in Grenada poignantly leaves out is the fact that the salaries of the judges are paid by the heads of government out of their consolidated fund. Right? He who pays the piper calls the tune. I think we are quite familiar with that. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that government should not be involved in put it this way, good governance involves our legislature, our parliament, in assisting the public in determining the best forum for redress. I think that's government's role. You know, Ronald Reagan in 1988 selected a judge from Maryland, Anthony Kennedy. And on the west lawn of the White House, Reagan put his arm around Kennedy. He had just been re-elected, sort of like our prime minister here. He had a lot of political capital, right? Just been re-elected in a landslide. And Reagan says, conservative government is alive with a great future because I've selected Anthony Kennedy. He puts his arm around Kennedy. Kennedy smiles and nominated, goes to the Supreme Court. And for the next 20 years, Anthony Kennedy became one of the most liberal judges on the Supreme Court of the United States. Which is to say that the fact that a prime minister or president selects a judge does not mean that that judge, as a professional, will not be independent of the people who appoint them. Right? Dwight D. Eisenhower selected William Warren, the governor of California. Eisenhower, extremely conservative, a general from World War II, selects the governor of California to head the Supreme Court, and Justice Warren remade America into a kinder and gentler country. From the Brown versus the Board of Education to women's rights, on and on and on. So I'm not saying that governments should not be involved in the judiciary. But if you're going to be paying their salaries, tell us. If you are going to be paying for their chauffeur and their housing, tell us. Because that's what the agreement says. In fact, it is such in a bad state that even outgoing Justice Byron made the following comment, George. He said, there is, quote, there is urgent need for CARICOM, that's the heads of government, to expedite arrangements for the establishment of an independent commission for paying CCJ judges. Essential to good governance this is essential for the good governance of an independent court. In other words, if you have the heads of government determining the salaries of judges at the CCJ, that is a bad court. I think Grenada is in a unique position because Trinidad, with the most dynamic economy in the Caribbean, the biggest economy, and Jamaica with the largest population, they are not going along with the CCJ. I'm asking myself why. They are good lawyers. Their societies are more mature in terms of their structure than we are. That's an objective fact. It doesn't mean we are less than anybody in the world. Why haven't they adopted the CCJ? I want to give you my opinion. To pass protocols, and we can get to protocols in a minute, later on as we speak, George, to pass a protocol or to amend a part of the CCJ requires a 2/3 majority. 2/3 majority. There are 12 members of CARICOM at present. 4 of those members are have already acceded to the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ. That leaves 8. Of the 8 persons who are the 8 heads of government, the 8 countries who remain, 6 of them are in the OECS. I should say 5 because Dominica is already there. 5. With the prerogatives of the heads of government to amend the law or to enact new protocols, which require a 2/3 majority. The heads of government of the OECS control the court. The heads of government of the OECS actually control the decision-making apparatus of the CCJ. I think that gives the people, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, which is the economic center of CARICOM, and Jamaica, it gives them pause. Gives them pause. So that in these small territories, whose population do not make up that of Jamaica, you can have changes to disagreement that are in their national interests and perhaps not in Jamaica's. You know, I'm wondering, why am I hearing so much chatter at the highest level of the Jamaican government about withdrawing from CARICOM? And they are so adamant that they are not going to be joining the CCJ. I tell you, George, there is CARICOM will evolve into a super state according to the rules of the CCJ. CARICOM will now be able to make law vis-a-vis the CCJ. You form the court. You form the commission. My God, get out of it. Get out of it. There's a $100 million trust fund so that the court can operate without you, heads of government. Get out of the business of the appellate court for the Caribbean. There are in this bill it requires such a close reading. For example, it speaks in the part that adopts the CCJ instead of the Privy Council. That is where we amend Section 39 of our Constitution. Section 39 of our Constitution deals with the right of appeal to the Privy Council. And that's the core part of our Constitution that we are amending. And it repeats word for word, almost, what is in the CCJ Act. Now, I could understand the government not wanting to go through the kind of forensic exercise that lawyers would go through in bringing to the public information about a bill. And let me say that I think the Bar Association is making a huge mistake by placing its check mark on the yes vote. I don't think that's the role of the Bar Association. I think it's the role of lawyers as individuals, but the Bar Association should have gone through this bill, gone through the CCJ Act, and highlighted, because these people know much more than I do, much more experienced lawyers than I am, George. And I mean that seriously, that they should have gone through this, look at the bill, look at the agreement, see where the issues are, and educate people. Or if they want to do it quietly, go to the government and say, listen, you've made a mistake. The CCJ Act says that the court in its appellate jurisdiction will not hear any cases less than $25,000 in value. In your bill, which is going to be argued before the parliament, you say it's $1,500. You've made a mistake. But the bar has acceded to the will of the government. And they have checked the yes column and are therefore unable to perform their education function to the people of Grenada. I think that's a mistake. To the issue of transparency, in the Caribbean, we don't have a lot of experience with transparency. Eh? In fact, if you go to the well-known organization Transparency International, that looks at the way states are run and to the extent that they disclose to their various publics the way they govern, the way they make laws, you'll see how far down on the scale every single Caribbean country is. We simply do not tell our people, that is, I say we, our governments, do not tell our people how they are governing them, what laws they are passing, whether they are involved in, a reading of a bill in Parliament where you have no opposition is not transparency. It is not full disclosure. Someone says yesterday in the debate, going to the Privy Council is so expensive, and England is so far from Grenada because Trinidad is right next door, and you'll get a speedy hearing. And let's not tell lies or claim easy victories here. The International Court of Justice is located in The Hague, and no one could have told Justice Dennis Byron, who would later become the head of the CCJ, or nobody could tell, and he was the head of the court on Rwanda, nobody could tell the people in Rwanda that that court in The Hague, which is a further distance between Rwanda and Brussels than Grenada is to London, nobody could have said, you will not get justice at The Hague because the court is too far away and there are all these people who are not familiar with our local culture and so forth. False. A court's ability to deliver a learned, or as we say here, a learned judgment does not depend on the color of the skin of the judges, and it certainly does not depend on their spatial location, whether they are in The Hague, whether they're in Johannesburg, London, New York, Madrid, or Port of Spain. Why the proponents of the yes vote have gone down this road of the location of the court, it beats me. They are giving the ordinary Grenadian the impression that you can go from the magistrate's court, and if you don't like what happens at the magistrate's court, which is the lower court, you can get to the CCJ. That's the overall message that's being told to Grenadians. The CCJ is more accessible. It's right there. They move quickly on matters. But a magistrate's court jurisdiction is $9,000, under $10,000. How many people, how many Grenadians actually go to the High Court?
Jerry, I hate to interrupt you for a minute. I know you're on a roll, but two things. One, I want to take a little break and pay some bills, but I also want to raise this very important issue which was brought to me this past week. We're hearing a lot about the accessibility of the court to our people in terms of cost. But I understand that something we have not been told, and you can tell me if this is correct or not, is that apparently the Privy Council in the past has been known to come down to the Caribbean to deal with cases, which is one way of minimizing the cost. I mean, you can get probably a whole bunch of cases. They'll come on down and deal with those cases. Is there any truth to that?
Oh, complete truth. The CCJ is described as an itinerant court, meaning the court moves around from jurisdiction to the next, one to the next. Well, the Privy Council, like all educated people, if you see somebody doing something good and the technology is available, you follow their lead. And the CCJ, the Privy Council, for example, heard the Bahamas human rights case in Roadtown, in the Bahamas. I'm sorry, in the Bahamas. They heard it in the Bahamas. They heard the another human rights case in Jamaica in Kingston. So we actually could bring the Privy Council down here as well, but that's not what drives up costs. What drives costs in an appeal are people like me. We lawyers.
Liars.
Lawyers will tell you that to go to the Privy Council, you have to pay me $40,000 or £40,000, depending on the complexity of your case. Are lawyers saying, or the people who are raising the issue of accessibility vis-a-vis cost, are they saying they're going to charge their clients less because we're going to Trinidad? It doesn't make the issues less complex. It doesn't mean you don't have to do more research. It doesn't mean that you don't have to consult the same jurisprudence that or read from the same book as lawyers on the other side are reading. It doesn't make your work any less. So the issue of cost in the difference between the CCJ and the Privy Council as Grenada's final appellate court is not driven by the location of the court. The issue of cost with respect to accessibility is driven by the fee that lawyers charge. A colleague of ours in Grenada went to the Privy Council this year to argue a case, and inclusive of his hotel fee, his hotel living expenses, traveling to England, hotel, going before the court, £2,500. £2,500, right? So we are hearing arguments by the people who propose the court that are untrue. And I'm asking myself, why? Why tell these untruths about a court that most of us support? And I think this bill, 22 pages long, that amends the Constitution, has the answer. the bill that is proposed to amend our Constitution has the answer as to why there's no education process, why this is shoved down our throat now, and why the easy tools, cheap tools of persuasion are used, because the fine print in this bill speaks to a waiver by the Grenadian citizen of all their rights and gives those rights to political leaders to change the CCJ Act as they wish.
All right, I'll tell you what. I'm going to take a little break now, and we're going to come on back after this. Before I go off to the break, I saw a comment here, which I found very interesting on Facebook. Somebody by the name of Anthony DeRiggs has a note here. Hold on. Yeah, Anthony has a note here that says, anytime a rich man is sentenced to flogging by the court, please let me know.
Correct.
Huh?
Correct. Good. Astute point. Yes.
All right, let's take a little break.
So, babe, Alberto and Beryl come and gone, right? So that means we still have Chris, Debbie, Florence, Michael, Patty, Sarah.
From the looks of it, Tony and Valerie might be coming as well. So we need to pick up some extra hurricane supplies.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply departments and the Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's is an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan. Get discounts when using credit and debit cards.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at Food Fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Thinking of owning your own home? Take it from a dream to reality. Yes, you can make it yours. Join Co-op Bank for its Make It Yours Property Expo from Friday, July 20th to Saturday, July 21st at the Grenada Trade Center. This year, we are breaking new grounds and going green. Learn tips on making your building climate change resistant, ways to go green, and so much more. Register by visiting www.grenadacoopbank.com or any Co-op Bank retail banking unit.
Grenada Market has now introduced the prime products to online shoppers in the UK via amazon.co.uk. Zeberpick, Nutmeg, Wabande and Mobiback are now available, with more products being added gradually. These products are shipped across the UK and Europe free of charge for Amazon Prime members and backed by Amazon's reputable customer service. Avoid international shipping. Buy in your local area. Amazon.com in the USA, Amazon.ca in Canada, and Amazon.co.uk in UK and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, folks, we are back. We are back. Now, just before we move along here, I want to pay a little attention to a comment here on the Rumble Chat shout box from Isaac. He says, this learned person is giving the facts, and we Grenadians must be mindful of blindly going down their deceitful CCJ referendum. Grenadians must again vote out the CCJ as we did in 2016 until we have a more democratic parliament with government and opposition. Grenadians, let's take notice and say no thanks to our PM and government and learned lawyers. No thanks. And then he ends by saying, thanks to this lawyer you have with you, George, and also thanks to you. Folks, I know that some of you out there obviously have some stuff you want to get off your chest. We're going to do things a little bit differently this morning. You're going to be calling me on 415-0631, okay? It's not the old 7746 number, 415-0631. Let's get back to Jerry. Jerry, during the break, you opened up my eyes again. It's 11:15. Guy, let me tell you, you take however long it takes, because I think a lot of the stuff just has to get out.
I want to refer to one of the last protocols that was passed by the heads of government. For clarity and explanation, a protocol is a vote of the CARICOM heads of government with respect to altering the CCJ agreement. They passed this protocol in 2005, and it has not been amended. It is titled Protocol to the Agreement Establishing the Caribbean Court of Justice relating to tenure of judges, that is, how long they can serve, the rules of the court, financial arrangements and withdrawal from the agreement, that is, withdrawal by states who have adopted the CCJ, the rules of their withdrawal, and then some provisions on the original jurisdiction of the Caribbean Court of Justice and the constitutions of states parties. Now, as I said, our critique of the CCJ should not be of the quality of the judges, whether the Caribbean is ready for its own appellate court. I think we are. I agree with Ronald Sanders. If you've read his article this week, he reminds us that of all the Commonwealth countries that still retain the Privy Council, that we in the Caribbean make up the majority of countries that are still with it. India has left, South Africa, New Zealand, Canada, they've left the Privy Council. I agree. But in leaving the Privy Council as our final court of appeal, the question is, do we blindly just adopt a bill and all its provisions, where, for example, it takes on this protocol that was passed in 2005 having to do with withdrawal? The protocol says that the Caribbean territories have to give notice to the CCJ if they wish to withdraw 3 years before they want to withdraw, and that it comes into effect, the withdrawal, 5 years later. Right? So you have, if you are going to withdraw from this court, you have either 5 or 8 years before you can do so. The protocol says, with respect to payment of judges, subject, quote, subject to this agreement and with approval of the heads of government, the Commission shall determine the terms and conditions and other benefits of the head of the court and the judges of the court. The actual traveling expenses and subsistence allowances are to be determined by the heads of government from time to time. You know, there's a little bit of a paradox in the campaign to adopt the CCJ, George. All the politicians, Mia Motley, our well and able Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Mitchell, they came to the podium and they told us, take on, please come to the CCJ because politicians' hands are off the court. We politicians have nothing to do with it. In fact, political interference is the main reason touted as to why Grenada should adopt the CCJ. No political interference. I wonder why they're trying so hard. Because every 5 years, they come to us and tell us, trust me. Trust me with your children's education. Trust me with your health care. Trust me with governing the state. I'm going to
Jerry, I tell you what, we're going to trust you with governing the state.
Yes, George.
There's somebody here who wants to get their 2 cents.
Sure.
So, good morning, caller, you're on here. Good morning, caller. I'm fine.
CCJ agreement. I'm saying that because there are people out there, the proponents of the CCJ, they will use whatever little straw to discredit what he's saying. What he's saying is reality, but they just called to make sure that he dots his I's and he crosses his T's, because I'm not aware of any CCJ act. Maybe he can clarify that.
Go ahead, caller.
I don't know if he meant CCJ agreement. Secondly,
All right. I think
are you
we
there?
lost that caller. I'm terribly sorry about that.
Hello?
I didn't quite.
I'm terribly sorry about that. We lost that caller.
No problem. I didn't quite get the question.
Maybe you can try again in a few minutes, caller. I would appreciate it. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yes, George. The issue of the protocols, it actually opens the door, just to enlarge the conversation, George, to CARICOM becoming a law-making organization. The Treaty of Chaguaramas, that is the revised treaty that was signed in 1971 that established the court. I don't think it envisioned CARICOM heads of government making decisions about the CCJ. And if they did, we as the public, we ought to say no. An appellate court is not involved. It's not a tool of development. An appellate court hears disputes between parties in criminal, civil, and other matters like judicial review. It relies on the precedent of courts before it and then makes a decision on the merit. That is all we want of a court. That's all we're asking. We're not saying that if the court is in Trinidad, it will make a better decision than if it's in The Hague in the Netherlands. We're not saying that. I want to echo Byron's words, outgoing Chief Justice Dennis Byron. He uses the word urgent the urgent need for CARICOM leaders to take their hands out of the kitty to pay judges. Because you cannot have heads of government involved. He says we need an independent body, independent, to determine the payment of judges. The Grenada bill says that when we change our constitution to adopt the CCJ, any and every single decision that the heads of government make with respect to the CCJ agreement is now adopted into Grenada law. There's a strong ocean of disagreement in the CCJ agreement itself with what the Bill of Grenada says. The CCJ agreement says that when there are changes which alter the CCJ agreement, you must come back to the governments of the countries that adopted the CCJ and abide by their constitutional procedures for going into the court.
All right. Hang on for just a sec. We're going to try with a phone just once more. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, good morning, George, and good morning, Jerry. Very, very good. Good morning, George and Jerry. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me, George? Hello?
I think the bill is not transparent because we do not enforce freedom of information laws. We don't have them here in the Caribbean. And transparency is not something we know. What we have adopted from the British and their colonial government here is that they gave us a government. We took it. We had no constitutional debate here in Grenada. We took it. And the way this bill, this critical bill that amends our constitution, the way it is handed down to us is not transparent. The way that judges are appointed to the CCJ, and I'm not questioning the capability of the competence of the men and the women on the commission. I'm saying that they do not have a transparent process. And when we are dealing with the highest court, one which I fully endorse and accept, the last thing we want is a business as usual process, the way that governments adopt changes to the laws in the Caribbean. I think Grenada is in a unique position to maybe assist the other islands in adopting the court, but let us shine a bright light on the best way to adopt the court, not simply accept what is handed to us.
All right. And on that note, we're going to take another little break here, and we'll come on back and continue with Jerry.
2, 3, 7. If you want to check the grand lack balance on your phone or report a faulty line near your home, if there is an emergency, take out your phone. These are 3 numbers that you should know. 2, 3, 7. Call me anytime, I'm always on the line. 2, 3, 7. Just call me anytime, I'm always on the line. 2, 3, 7.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
Mm-mm. I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Alrighty, folks, we are back with Mr. Jerry Edwin. Very interesting monologue, I guess you might call it. I'm certainly enjoying this, and we're going to let him continue. Jerry, take it away.
Yes, George. The adoption by Grenada of the CCJ agreement, so that CCJ is our final court of appeal, may have the negative effect of turning CARICOM into a super legislature of its own. The agreement permits these heads of government to pass these protocols and to make amendments to the agreement. And the bill we are about to vote on in November says that Grenada will adopt those protocols. The bill is silent as to how, while the CCJ agreement is clear. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about that, George. We don't want to turn CARICOM into a separate legislative making body. No, with respect to the treaties that are passed, like the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, it is clear within the parameters of that agreement, of that treaty signed by the member states of CARICOM, there could be changes made to that agreement. But when heads of government can handpick the president of the court and then place that president as the head of the commission that picks judges, when their protocols are adopted without comment in Grenada, I think we are outside the ambit of a transparent procedure. The outgoing Chief Justice Byron said that the much vaunted trust fund we hear about, George, the $100 million trust fund, he says it needs to be topped up, his words. We need to top up the money that is given for this court to operate. Who tops it up? The heads of government, right? I know the money came out of all the member states of CARICOM who put money into this trust fund, and this trust fund established the Caribbean Court of Justice. Even with this observation of Justice Byron, I am still looking to find out how much a CCJ judge is paid. And if you find it, George, please tell me, because I've searched everywhere It is not in the audited statements of the Commission. It is not in the audited statements of the CCJ, the court itself. But I think the governments know, because they are the ones to determine what the pay package for these judges are, not the Commission itself. I think there's just too much power that is given to heads of government, and they should pass resolutions that allow them to quickly get out of the business of the court. I don't see that heads of government have any role if we are going to get a court that is superior to the CCJ, such that we've been told this in the brochure, that this actually is a superior court. It says that the CCJ sees matters swiftly, the urgent matters. That's the advantage over the CCJ, right? Urgent matters. The following are some good reasons, quote unquote, for having the CCJ as the final court of appeal instead of the CCJ. Urgent matters are tried swiftly. That's the Eddie Ventus case of Barbados. More accessibility to the CCJ by litigants. The court is an itinerant court, it says. It encourages electronic processing of cases. The CCJ headquarters is only a few minutes away, but I think we've dealt with that to show these are bogus arguments that are not sufficient to say why we should go to the court, because the CCJ has been itinerant. It does have electronic processing. And although it is located in London, the distance of a court is no measure of how fit it is to try the matters, to hear appellate matters involving the parties before it. Less costly, you say, in terms of counsel's fees. Well, I don't know that the court can make counsel fees. In fact, I'm fairly sure it does not. Commuting and accommodation. Well, for Grenada, it might be easier, it might be cheaper to fly from Trinidad, from St. George's to Piaco. But if you're in Jamaica and you're trying to get down to the CCJ, I tell you, it cost me $1,000 to go from Grenada to St. Kitts, George, within the CARICOM countries on LAAT. That's about what it costs to cross the Atlantic to go to London. The other advantage, the brochure says, it's an opportunity to build up a mature Caribbean jurisprudence. Judges from the region will be more acquainted with our cultural and sociological norms. I don't know that I want an appellate court to discern the sociological differences between Jamaicans and Grenadians, or Kititians and Tobagonians, in terms of making its final decision. I don't know that we want that. What we want is an impartial referee, a panel of judges. Again, I like to bring the example of the International Court of Human Rights, of ICCJ, criminal justice. The judge that tried the butchers of Yugoslavia, Rwanda, Sierra Leone. That court is located thousands of miles away, and nobody can say that Charles Taylor, the former leader of Sierra Leone, did not get a fair trial in a court that was thousands of miles away. You cannot tell me that when Mr. Clouden here in Grenada went to the Privy Council more times than any other Grenadian lawyer to date and argued his cases, that somehow he got a better treatment or worse treatment from the judges because they are located in London. When the proponents of the CCJ says that somehow we will be developing Caribbean jurisprudence, they are not telling us, and perhaps they don't know, and I fault the lawyers in the Senate for this. Pull your colleagues aside and educate them. The CCJ will be relying on case law that primarily comes from the Privy Council. That's where they will find the bulk of the jurisprudence for the next 100 years. Why this urge? Why you want to claim this? I listened to the ad, George. I don't know if you've heard it. In the campaign for the CCJ, it begins, "We are reggae, we are calypso." And I tell myself, but reggae and calypso are running far from the CCJ because the Trinidadians and the Jamaicans don't want to have anything to do with it. I think we ought to have a conversation, and I suggested that, and I'm just a little voice, that the people who ought to be telling us about the CCJ should not be political leaders. It should be the people who have gone before the court and have experienced it, have been before the judge, and better yet, if they have been to the Privy Council, come to Grenada and educate us. Tell us, give us your observations. Where do you think there are weaknesses in the CCJ? It's a young court. Where do you think we ought to have a more transparent system? Are you satisfied that the way judges are selected by the commission is the best way to choose the judges for the highest court in the land? There is no redress from the Privy Council when you're done. There is no redress from the CCJ when you are done. Debunk the idea in the bill that if you have a $1,500 case, you can get to the CCJ. Folks, you cannot. But it's in the Grenada bill. I think I was very disappointed in the choice of the political leaders, Mia Motley and our Prime Minister, who stood before the lectern at the Trade Center. I was very disappointed in that. But, the politician stock in trade is the rally, the political rally, the flag. There was even music. There was the Attorney General of Grenada, Sir Lawrence Joseph, telling us that he is joining the front line to break the chains of colonialism. Please give Elizabeth back her knighthood. Start there. I'm not saying that it isn't time for the Caribbean to really move ahead. But if we are going to move ahead with our final appellate court, George, I think it is incumbent on us to improve transparent government in the Caribbean, to get the hands of politicians out of the selection of judges and their payment. Okay, you want them to select the judges? I have no problem. I give the example of Ronald Reagan and Anthony Kennedy. No problem with that. I give you the example of Dwight Eisenhower and Justice Warren. No problem with that. But take your hands out of the fund that's paying these judges. The politician should never be involved. And therein is the lie about the trust fund being the source of the financing of the court. Because while the trust fund finances the operation of the court, the terms and conditions, the remuneration, their pay package is controlled to the penny by the heads of government of CARICOM. It's something I don't think we should let pass.
All right, Jerry, I think we need to take another little pause here, if you will, and we're going to take a little break, take some commercials, and we're going to come right.
So, babe, Alberto and Beryl come and gone, right? So that means we still have Chris, Debbie, Florence, Michael, Patty, Sarah.
From the looks of it, Tony and Valerie might be coming as well. So we need to pick up some extra hurricane supplies.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply departments and Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's is an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan. Get discounts when using credit and debit cards.
237. If you wanna check the grand lack balance on your phone, or report a faulty line near your home, if there is an emergency, take out your phone. These are 3 numbers that you should know. 237. Call me anytime, I'm always on the line. 237. Just call me anytime, I'm always on the line. 237.
Grenada Market has now introduced the Prime products to online shoppers in the UK via Amazon.co.uk. Zeberpick, Nutmed, Wabande and Mobiback are now available, with more products being added gradually. These products are shipped across the UK and Europe free of charge for Amazon Prime members and backed by Amazon's reputable customer service. Avoid international shipping. Buy in your local area. Amazon.com in the USA, Amazon.ca in Canada, and Amazon.co.uk in UK and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, folks, it's now, hey, 12 minutes away from the hour, 12 minutes away from noon. Now, let me pay some attention to, first of all, the shout box. Kipling says, Mr. Jerry. Hello, Mr. Jerry.
Mr. Jerry.
Didn't say Sir Jerry. Mr. Jerry, I wish those who are advocating a yes vote would seek a debate with you instead of trying to discredit you, which is what is usually done. I admire you for what you are doing, giving the undisputed other side of the story. Thank you. And that's from Kipling out in New York. Henry Steele says, have they ever considered giving us a chance, giving us a choice of Privy Council, CCJ, or both? You want to respond to that before I move on?
You know, you remember Trinidad, Kamala Bessesa Bassad said a few years ago when she was PM that she wanted to bifurcate the appellate jurisdiction of the final appellate court for civil matters to remain in the Privy Council, and for criminal matters to go to the CCJ, because as you know, Trinidad has not adopted the act. That didn't go very far. So again, I don't think that Part 39 of our Constitution allows for that, but I haven't heard any reasons. Let me say, I haven't talked to any of our colleagues in Trinidad with respect to why that effort never moved forward. But that's for a constitutional scholar, not a trial lawyer like myself. I don't ascend up those heights, George.
All right. And Albert Marcel says, Jerry is absolutely right about the possibility of politicians influencing the selection of judges. Several years ago, Grenada opposed the continuation of the judgeship of Justice Brian Alene. The government did that solely out of spite, because Justice Alene had ruled against the government in at least 2 legal disputes.
That's pretty well known in the legal community that, as you know, to become the head of the Court of Appeal in the Eastern Caribbean, there has to be a unanimous vote by the heads of the OECS government. And it is known that our Prime Minister took objection to Brian Alene being permanently the head of the OECS Court of Appeal. They had been colleagues in a political organization before, but when Justice Alene came to Grenada, he took decisions on a number of judicial review matters that were not supportive of the government position. And as a result, the Prime Minister at the time opposed and was succeeded, and he succeeded in Justice Alene not being the head of the Caribbean, the Eastern Caribbean Court. Again, I am not saying that the heads of government should not appoint. I have no problem with them appointing judges. I have no problem with that. My issue is the way these judges are selected and the continued involvement of the heads of government in the remuneration, the payment of judges. If you have a commission, you've given that commission power, then heads of government ought to get out of the business of the court of our final court.
All right, Jerry, I'll tell you what, we're fast approaching our scheduled time, so I'm going to ask you to start winding down, okay? However, I want to share something with you, and I remembered it because of a comment I saw on the shout box a few minutes ago. For the past 3 weeks, I have had, I'm sure you're aware of a program we do here at Grenada Broadcast called Law Made Simple. It's done by Ruggles. Ruggles has been doing that for about 10 years. Now, for the past 3 weeks, we have had a sort of change and a total focus, not that Ruggles hasn't been focusing since March on the CCJ, but 3 weeks ago he began bringing in Dr. Francis Alexis from the advisory committee. So Francis and Ruggles have been in here on Mondays, and we do the broadcast live, put it out on all the 6 platforms. And they are going to be back again tomorrow, I would imagine. Now, we expect that it's been suggested that they do a sort of debate, rather than just the 2 of them coming and talking about the CCJ. Let's hear how these folks would square off with some people who might have opposing views. Last Sunday, we had a couple of people in here, Dave Ned, who's a civil society advocate, and he was joined by Sandra Ferguson, who's also a civil society advocate. And both Francis and Ruggles have agreed to talk with these people. Okay? And I'm hoping that we're going to do that sometime this coming week. Now, having sat here for almost an hour and a half, listening to you, it dawned on me, hey, why not get this character to come and sit with Ruggles and Dr. Alexis? Would you be amenable to such an idea?
I will talk to baby Jesus and Count Dracula. I don't. I will talk to everybody. You're speaking of 2 of the best lawyers here in Grenada.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. And Francis Alexis is second to none in the region, the entire Caribbean, with respect to his broad, vast knowledge on areas of constitutional law. Again, I am not in an oppositional role on this issue. I am clamoring for honesty in the way that we move on this seminal. This is the first time we are amending our Constitution. It may be the last time. These things are very difficult. Dr. Alexis knows well. He lost in St. Vincent a few years ago when they tried to amend their Constitution. And the first time around, this thing failed. Dr. McIntosh, for many years, was at the grind trying to propose some changes to our Constitution that didn't quite get there, and then he passed away. George, it is very difficult to amend the Constitution. But I think when there is a predisposition as to the outcome of a vote to amend the Constitution, sometimes my learned friends, incredibly learned friends, are blind to the details in the very bill that they may have. You see, the outcome is driven. They are driven. They've declared their support for the outcome. So yes, of course I'd love to hear their responses to these issues that I've raised, and we will use the text as our guide. The bill that is before the people of Grenada to be voted on November 6th, and the CCJ agreement. And we will look at all the protocols. And I expect at the next reading of this bill, we will see some further amendments. Because I'm not here just talking just to hear myself. I would hope that some of what we've said this morning would go some way to changing the bill so that it fits with the very agreement that we will be adopting, and it includes some circularity with respect to the heads of government when they make any alterations or ratifications to the CCJ law, that they come back to the people of Grenada and follow what the agreement says. The bill waives the right of Grenada to ratify in its local parliament changes that are made by the heads of government to the CCJ law. I don't think we could tolerate that. I'm not ceding the future of an appellate. When client comes to me and they say, Mr. Edwin, we want to take this all the way because we believe that, the final court of appeal will decide in our favor. I don't want to have lurking in the back of my head that, this particular judge who I encountered in Grenada 10 years ago, who now sits on the Court of Appeal, and that judge tells me that she doesn't like the way I practice, so she doesn't want to hear me anymore. 10 years now on, she's at the CCJ. And I had no comment to offer when she was selected. I'm giving you a real example. This is not hyperbole. I had a judge in Grenada who was not satisfied that I'd gone to the Court of Appeal and proved her wrong, not once, but 3 times. That judge said to me, do not come back in my court. I don't want to hear you anymore. For all we know, that judge 10 years down the road is going to be on the Court of Appeal, is on the CCJ. We don't know what the future is. I am saying, if such a person applies to the court when there's an opening on the CCJ, I want to be heard. This judge in Grenada writes the fewest decisions. I think there are other lawyers in Grenada that will want to go forward and say, hold on, Commission, here's why we think this person is unfit. And while we're at it, let me say, I think that when Byron was appointed, there should have been an opportunity. If the people want to go along with him, that's fine. But there should have been an opportunity for somebody to say that when Byron was in Grenada in 1985 of the trial of the Grenada 17, he dismissed the entire jury and picked a member of the prosecution to be the registrar to accept a new jury pool. I think, that's transparency. That we may not like the outcome, but citizens have a right to be heard. And if we are going to do something so fundamental, that Privy Council has been around managing our appellate affairs as a final court since 1833. If we are going to take on the CCJ into perpetuity, I'm saying we should do better than what happened in the colonial period and have a way of choosing judges that are transparent and that would allow people to comment.
All right. There's a question here on Facebook from somebody named Ryan Lalit. He says there's a budget and organization supporting the yes vote. Is there a similar budget, message, marketing for a no vote? Very, very quickly, Jerry.
Of course not. There is no budget for that.
All right.
And I'm not advocating a no vote. I'm advocating an open vote.
Okay.
A transparent process.
Albert Marcel says on the shout box, Jerry, you should take the opportunity to ventilate your point of view on the issue. You will not be found wanting. Okay?
Thank you.
So you're coming to see the doc and the rug.
You're going to need a stretcher to take one of us out there.
Okay.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
Okay.
And
thank you very much, Jerry Edwin. I really do appreciate it, and I'm sure our listeners do based on the feedback that I've seen. I apologize to those of you who were trying to reach us by the phone but could not get in. Terribly sorry about that. And let's take one quick little break. Come on back with a final passage from the scriptures.
Grenada Market has now introduced the Prime products to online shoppers in the UK via Amazon.co.uk. Zeberpick, Nutmed, Wabande and Mobiback are now available, with more products being added gradually. These products are shipped across the UK and Europe free of charge for Amazon Prime members and backed by Amazon's reputable customer service. Avoid international shipping. Buy in your local area. Amazon.com in the USA, Amazon.ca in Canada, and Amazon.co.uk in UK and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
So, babe, Alberto and Beryl come and gone, right? So that means we still have Chris, Debbie, Florence, Michael, Patty, Sarah.
From the looks of it, Tony and Valerie might be coming as well. So we need to pick up some extra hurricane supplies.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and the Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, Tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's is an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan. Get discounts when using credit and debit cards.
Just about time to say goodbye. Thanks a lot for joining us this morning. One parting word from the Holy Scriptures. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 18, 19, and 20. And pray in the Spirit on all occasions, with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. Pray also for me, that whenever I speak, words may be given to me, so that I will fearlessly make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains. Pray that I may declare it fearlessly as I should. Pilgrims, Ephesians chapter 6, verses 18 to 20. My dear friends, this is where we pull the curtain down with heartfelt thanks for spending some time with us on this Sunday morning. Do appreciate it, and we do look forward to seeing you again in the very near future, like tomorrow morning, for the next edition of Good Day Grenada. And spread the word. Like us, okay? George Grant sending God's blessings your way. We'll see you tomorrow.